So, welcome to tonight's broadcast of DreamCloud. We just built a new website for you, for everyone, and this is a new think tank because the current frustration online really is going nowhere. And people are, basically panicking at this point about the future of this country. And I just thought that we should have a new platform to address these issues. So I built it. And obviously, I'm going to come on to the old platforms because they're complementary. You can't replace the status quo. I've learned that. But you can build complementary systems. So this right here, if you look at it, is the new website. This is one of the campaigns. So what we're going to do for this project is address the problem head on. And, bringing back the American dream is obviously the goal, right? And we need to figure out a way to do that. And we need to come up with not only a solution, but we need to come up with many solutions. There are so many different problems, and it feels overwhelming that we don't have a system that allows us to collaborate. We don't have a system that allows us to address each individual problem together. And we don't have any control over the most powerful systems in society. We have a financial system that is decoupled with the real economy. And what I mean by that is that it is so risky right now because of how the system is set up. It's so risky to invest in the real economy, to invest in real businesses. It is becoming so much more attractive to just speculate on assets, right? And that's what's going on with housing right now. That's why the stock market is all-time highs, because anytime someone is looking to invest their capital, they're seeing, if I invest in the real economy, I'm not going to see returns because the real economy is failing. So we're caught in like a vicious cycle of feedback where less investment is going into the real economy. And because of that, the real economy is growing slower. And then other investors see that and then want to invest less in the real economy and would rather invest in the financial system or speculate on assets. So that's driving this sort of fake economy or the financial economy. And that's why you're seeing all-time valuations that are astronomical while the real economy is getting crushed. And individual investors are looking at this problem and saying, well, where do I put my money? Something that's growing because everyone is rushing to it, or into the real economy that's failing. And eventually, right, this is why the bubbles are created. And then eventually this pops, and then we have a bailout, and then we have widespread panic, right? So DreamCloud, and I just, updated the website, is a new think tank for us all to collaborate. So you can think about it as a social media site. You can think about it as a decentralized news website, but you can also launch projects or campaigns. You can get signatures from people. You can hire people to work on projects with you. Right now, you can't see it on TikTok, but on the other streaming channels, you can see that there's a new campaign called the MFer, and this is the Modern Federal Elections Reform Campaign. So I think what we have to do is create something that is nonpartisan. We have to create something that everyone in America can support. So it's about a federal election reform. It's very simple. It has three calls to action. One is to create publicly funded elections. So we need to get money out of politics. Everyone seems to know that. Everyone seems to realize that. It's a lot more complicated once you actually dig into it, because it's actually through the courts. You have to do this. But then if you create a ban, or if you create a limit on what private citizens can spend, you have to determine, when that amount is filled. So that's why unlimited spending is permitted, because it's not limited by what each campaign is capped already. But then you have the problem of PACs and super PACs that can raise unlimited funds. Well, if you just put a cap on each PAC, then you can just create more PACs. So there's no real solution to this. But if you created public funded elections, and if you created this strategy, this platform, then you could say, okay, now that we have publicly funded elections, now we can just ban private contributions altogether, right? Or we could limit contributions to individual people, and individual people can contribute X amount of dollars, and then no more money can be raised. You can't contribute any more money to any of these other PACs. Or you could put a cap on PACs for individuals. So each individual could, donate to each individual PAC a certain amount, but couldn't contribute to, let's say, more than 10 or more than a certain amount. So basically, first we have to create the publicly funded elections, right? So go to the website, dreamcloudclub.org, and click on the Modern Federal Election Reform Campaign, right? And then just sign it. And I'd like you to just create an account while you're there, because you can start to post your own ideas. So this is like a think tank for everyone to join. This is something that we can all get involved in. We can all contribute to it. And then we can share information with each other, because there's a lot of people online that are sharing their own, personal pieces of information. And we don't have kind of like a unified system, right? Each individual can continue to share and kind of like express their outrage or frustration on social media, which is fine. But then we have a central location called dreamcloudclub.org, where we're putting all of our ideas, right? Whether it's just a post about a concept, whether it's someone pointing out a flaw in the system, corruption, something like that. You want to highlight something that needs to change, whether you're proposing a new solution, whether you want to launch a campaign and raise funds and get signatures and get something done, whether you want to build a project and you want to crowdfund the project. You can do all that on DreamCloud now. So again, this is an effort to say, what do we want to build? What kind of world do we want to live in, right? And what kind of healthcare system do we actually want? What kind of political system do we actually want? And not to leave it up to individual politicians, because that's the other issue that I have with the system, is that right now we're leaving it up to politicians to come up with this legislation, to come up with these policies. And then as soon as that politician either becomes bought out or becomes kicked out, we no longer have that policy. So DreamCloud can keep a record of all of these policies, of all of these proposals, of all of these ideas, of all of these campaigns. And we can basically influence the world, or influence our politicians based on this system, this platform, right? And they can create accounts, they can create profiles on DreamCloud, and they can write about specific campaigns they support, specific projects they support. They can write their own posts. So you can see that there's, your politician is on here. And when it comes time to vote, we can support those politicians. I realize that the system is way too um, complicated and rigged for us to be able to solve this in the private sector. I initially was, I was looking forward to kind of starting a company in the private sector and then using that as leverage to impact change. And maybe that's what I've done, right? It's a tech platform. It is a company, essentially. It's a media company. It's a media platform. But it's basically a news site where anyone can join and post and share their ideas. But it's not just a news site about anything. And it's not just a news site, where these ideas are just shared, right? It's not just some place to gossip or to waste time, right? It really needs to be about, we want to create this type of action. We want to create this type of labor movement. We want to create this type of policy. We want to create this type of healthcare system. This is what we should create, right? So you can post about something that you think we should do. Many people can post about what they think we should do, and it's not just a Twitter post, or it's not just like a social media snippet. It's a full on, well researched article with images. You can, I don't care if you use AI to help you create images or create the material, but it needs to be thoughtful and it needs to be well researched, so that other people can learn from it, right? So even if it's just, giving some background or some history on a subject, that would be great. If you want to share some new ideas where you think, this should be done, if you want to, expose the system from an insider's perspective, from like an expert's perspective, and you want to share with people, like, I think this is why, our system is not working from this insider perspective, then just write a regular post article about that, and then people will be able to read it. If you like a project and you want to support it, you can write an article about it and you can share it if it's an external project. If you want to launch your own project, if you're fundraising for something, then you can do it right on the platform. Basically, there's just a small commission that the platform makes, but most of the money goes to the creators. You can do this with a campaign as well. You can create a campaign to collect signatures and to crowdfund. If you want to do something more long-term, like start a business, I think that would be an amazing use case for this project. Long-term is that we can create, I even thought recently, instead of trying to go all the way to a market and start with there, maybe we could start with like the American Burger Corporation and, launch a project like that where we crowdfund the startup capital. It's owned by the community. It's owned by the workers. And then we can launch that and open more stores and create a more democratic, company like that can supply jobs, that doesn't think about profit margins as much as it does creating good quality products and good employment and good pay. So all these things we can do now. And then basically the transaction fees on the website will go into a community fund, and then we'll be able to decide together what we spend that money on. So if you launch a campaign or if you launch a project and you get a lot of people to help you out with it and it gets funded, and a small fraction of that goes back to the community wealth fund, and then we can use that to fund larger projects. But basically, yeah, we are in a state right now where we have a trillionaire. I think that's like a good place to just stop and say, what is this that we're creating? What kind of world are we living in right now? And what are our options? What are the alternatives? Because it doesn't seem like the status quo is slowing down. We're facing a lot of issues. I don't even want to say it on social media, but let's just say these big buildings that are being constructed all around the country. We have I don't want to say the words, but like we have issues with, let's just say that certain institutions are keeping a very close eye on the public, right? Maybe too close of an eye on the public. And again, I don't know where these kind of motivations arise, because it just seems like the system just wants to consolidate and consolidate and consolidate. And, that's why we're seeing all of this, all of these issues in the private sector, in the local economy and small businesses. People are trying to consolidate more and more of the market, the shared market, right? But that's the economy. The economy is basically a market where people go buy things, right? So if you go and you want to buy something and you have 100 different stores to buy it from, then the chances are you're not going to buy it from 99 stores. But if you go to buy something and all of a sudden there's only 5 stores, well, now you have a 20% chance of someone buying it from you instead of a 1 in 100, right? So the consolidation of the market is an objective of the, let's say, the elite or the Epstein class or whatever, however you want to say it. So the object is not to create more businesses, and that's what I'm also finding with the whole economy or the political system, is often these narratives that we're being told are absolutely false, absolutely not true. The point of this, I don't even want to call it capitalism, but the point of this system right now, this economic model we have, is to destroy as many businesses as possible and to consolidate that into a very, very small handful of companies, so that every time you go to buy something, you have to buy it from a company that is already owned and controlled by the most powerful investment institutions. That's what consolidation of power results in. So we don't have an economy that's pluralistic, and we don't have an economy that's supporting small businesses or promoting young people to start their own businesses. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse until we have a sliver of amount of jobs, right? Because of artificial intelligence and technology, we're going to have a small amount of jobs that are able to be staffed by these massive corporations, and then everyone else will be basically pushed out of the working economy, will end up in poverty, will end up losing their housing situations, and then will end up being gobbled up by the system and put into some kind of prison system where they'll have to work for penny. Like, we have to remember that, like, this country and the history of it is, the folks that, I don't want to be too dramatic, but slavery is a preferred system. They don't want a system where everyone is free and able to do what they want and demand high wages. You understand that. So the alternative to this is obviously a system where you have no control, you have no say over what you do, you have no power whatsoever, and you get paid what they want you to get paid, not what you want to get paid, and you don't own a business. So that's the major issues I'm seeing right now, is like a trend towards a destruction of the economy in one aspect, but also just like this really, really hyper concentrated form of wealth that turns into a political force that then subjugates all the people into becoming slaves. So we don't want that, right? We actually need to do something, right? So that's what Dream Cloud is for, right? To the prevention of this. And it's become obvious that not one person can do this. No one company can do this. No one organization can do this. But if we had a platform that was specifically designed to prevent this from happening, to change the system, to create change, to create the public policies that we want to see, to create the companies that we want to work for, to create political parties that we would actually be proud of joining and voting for, to talk about new ideas. Like, we could build a public nonprofit healthcare system that covered everyone in America. We could do that if we had the organizing structure to do that, but we don't have that organizing structure. So that's basically what Dream Cloud is a platform for you to share your ideas, to criticize other ideas, for you to lay out all of your plans, for you to raise awareness for things, for you to create petitions for people to sign, for you to launch projects, to see if there's interest in maybe helping you fund your business. All of these things we can do if we start to understand that we have to work together. And, we have to get better people elected. So going back to this, and if you're on TikTok, it's on YouTube, I'm on live over there, but just go to their website and look up the MFR, which is the Modern Federal Election Reform campaign that I'm launching right now. So this is 3 parts, right? This is to create publicly funded elections at the federal level. This is to enact term limits, and this is to ban stock trading. So these 3 components are a part of what I think could be, election reform. Obviously, the banning of the stock trading isn't specifically to elections, but I think it just can become part of this like initial pillar of what we want. So we want elected officials, right, to be publicly funded, and then over time we need to get rid of private funding from our elections. So if we want to get rid of all of the dark money and all of the super PACs in our elections, we have to first establish the public funding of elections, right? And then as we make that transition, now we have publicly funded elections. We're able to get rid of dark money in politics. Okay, now we need term limits. So term limits ensure that we have a healthy rotation. Right now we have members of Congress. The average age is up to 60 years old. The average age of Congress, is like nearly 60 years old. I think it's 59. And incumbents are reelected like high 90%. So when people are elected, they're reelected and reelected and reelected, right? So we don't have a good new batch of members of Congress in the federal government. So if we want that, we need to enact term limits so they're automatically pushed out. And we can talk about what that term limit is going to be, but we have to enact, we have to come together and realize that we need term limits. So that's number 1 and number 2. And then number 3 is to ban stock trading, right? So I think that this falls under kind of the, ethics, but also election reform, because it means that like getting elected into office isn't about enriching yourself. So you would have to completely divest. You could put all of your money into a passive fund that can't trade hands and can't be traded, right? So you could invest in like mutual funds or some kind of an ETF, but once it's in there, it's locked in there for the duration of your stay in Congress. So it's probably better to divest and to invest in something that you think would be good long term. So these 3 things are a national campaign that I think all people can get involved in and all people can support. So we have a new website where anyone can post their ideas, anyone can launch a project or a campaign. Go sign up. It's at dreamcloudclub.org. Basically, this is like a new type of social media platform. It's a decentralized news platform where you can also launch projects and campaigns. So think about it like, it's a Twitter feed or a Substack, plus you have, GoFundMe projects, and you have change.org petitions. So it's like wrapping this whole thing up into one platform so that if people want to write, they can write and they can share ideas and they can find projects they like and they can help promote them. And those people can be supported. So you can actually support people by one-time tipping donations, or you can subscribe to those profiles and you could be, supporting them for a few dollars every month. You can subscribe to campaigns. You can subscribe to projects. So you could have like your YouTube channel, obviously, but then you could have your YouTube channel project on DreamCloud. So it's kind of like having a Patreon. And then that not only are you supporting that project or that individual, that creator, but you're also supporting the whole organization. And that organization is about pooling our resources into a community wealth fund that can be used to build the cooperative conglomerate. And those are bigger projects that we need to decide that we're going to build together, like a healthcare system. I've been looking into it. California, the problem with California single payer is really that it's done on the state level. That's why a national single payer healthcare system is actually much easier, just because of how the system is set up right now. And then you have the problem of, you know, tuition costs for educating doctors and nurses. That's super high. So you have like all of these reasons that things are very expensive because tuition costs are expensive. Therefore, the doctor's pay has to be high. Therefore, your hospital fees need to be high. Therefore, your insurance costs are high, and then the insurance companies want to make money. So then, you know, your copays need to be high. So there's all of these issues stacked on top of each other, and we need to address all of them in a comprehensive way. And we need to do it. The American people need to solve these problems. We can't rely on these political parties or these institutions to solve these problems because most of the time they have invested interest in not solving these problems and letting these problems, rage on continuously. So that's my perspective and my position now is that we need to come together and we need to start talking about these issues. We need to start sharing information. We need to have a central location, which is a platform I built called DreamCloud. And you can go to dreamcloudclub.org, create a profile and make a post and share some type of information that you have about your ideas, how you view the future of this country, what things we should change. And you can offer, historical data. You could, if you're better at researching things and you want to give people resource material, then just write about that. If you think like, of a good project that would be beneficial to the community, then launch a project. If you want to start a campaign and get signatures and get funding for that, then launch a campaign. So we can do all of these things together in our individual way. And there's also categories for health, education, technology, community, and government. So there's these categories where we can tag what we're doing in a specific slot, because some people who are better at, health or thinking about, that system or healing in general or medicine, those are going to be completely different people from people who are, can think about better economic systems or ways to better regulate our current economy. But, it's like we have all these ideas. We have the motivation. People care and they're politically active. And I don't think that we've been this politically active, since I've been alive. I think that right now we have an opportunity to kind of seize the moment and to say, okay, everyone's frustrated. Everyone wants to change the system, but we don't have a mechanism that allows us to actually change the system. We don't have a platform that allows us to all come together. We're too divided, right? And yes, we can each individually come onto one of our social media platforms of choice and we can complain about it. And I've watched countless documentaries. I've watched countless videos on, this problem or that problem or exposing corruption here or whatever. But at the end of the day, the system is insulated and it's protected. And if something becomes, too big of a threat, it'll get silenced or it'll get, eliminated. And at the same time, we're not really doing anything while we're just complaining. If we're just talking about the problems, we're not really doing anything, right? If we can't come up with a list of demands, if we can't envision what we actually want and put it down on paper and decide that, this is what we're shooting for, this is what we're going for, and this is what we're prepared to do to get it, then we're not going to get it. We're not going to change anything. It's not going to work. So that's basically where I'm at right now. Is I understand people are frustrated. I understand that, people are interested in building new things and launching new projects. People are interested in a lot of reforms. People are, panicking because they can see that this economy is becoming unaffordable, and they're frustrated with, you know, um, two corrupt political parties, and half of them are worried about one political party. The other half is worried about the other political party. There are people who have kind of taken a step above that, and they can recognize that maybe this whole system is, kind of working together, even though it's working against each other at some levels. It's actually a part of a bigger strategy to not disrupt the most powerful forces in society. And so, with all these things considered, um, are we going to change the system by just coming onto social media and complaining about it? Or can we build a network of like minded individuals, dreamers on Dream Cloud, to say, this is exactly what I want? This is what I want the future to look like. This is what I think we should do. And I'm a professional in this area. This is my role. I'm an educator. I'm a healer. I'm an organizer. I'm a politician, right? And kind of like almost like level ourselves and not create this hierarchy of, well, I'm the leader of this organization and I just need all of you to kind of like be under me. We can kind of just create a profile. You can create a professional profile for a company, or it could be an individual profile for your, for yourself, for your person. But when you create a campaign, right, you're just in the same boat as everyone else. Everyone is, creating campaigns. Everyone is creating projects. Everyone is posting. Everyone's posts end up on the front homepage under the new posts category. Everyone's posts, if they're liked, end up in the popular posts area. Everyone's profile, if they're liked, ends up in the pop. It's like it's a very democratic, equal system that anyone can contribute to. If you have a concept, if you have an idea, if you have a system that you think would be good to introduce, bring it onto the platform, share it with me, share it with the rest of the community. You don't even need an account to view it. So the public can just go to it like a regular website and they can just read, what's going on. It's almost like the news is specifically covering stories that are already happening. But this site can do that, right? You can post about what's happening, but you can also post about, like what I've created is like explaining to people why a single payer healthcare system would be more affordable. Actually, all things considered, if you stopped paying for the private insurance and the copays and the deductibles and all of the different billing, we would actually save money on the whole. And because if you're shifting it from an individual expenditure to a tax system, then those people that are wealthier would actually pay more into it, bringing down the cost of poor people, right? To eventually, for some people, it would just be free. So that kind of conversation needs to happen, but it can't just happen on social media in a video and then it's over. On DreamCloud, it's permanent. It's an article, it's a post, it's an explanation. It's something you can always go back to and you can read and you can, make a video about it, right? Like if you're better at making videos, then you can use this as resource material to then cite as a source to make your video. And then you can post on the platform about what you've, created. And you can even link that video on the platform so that if you have a small audience, you're not having to start from zero, right? If you're a part of the Dream Cloud Club and you share one of your YouTube videos on the platform, there's a greater chance that people who are part of our community will go in, find your video, watch it, and then follow your channel. So there's a lot of noise on social media and there's a lot of people just talking about how to go viral. And unfortunately, the algorithms today are geared towards, people doing things that are viral worthy or sensational. And it's not, it's not really, it's not really our goal to say what should be and what should be allowed on social media. But right now, things are trending towards, very simple minded ideas, very stupid concepts. You might say, content that is a little bit of a waste of our attention, right? Considering what's going on in the world and considering how bad things have become, I think that we need to be a little more serious about how we're acting right now as a country. Um, and unfortunately, like every time, unless you're like completely outraged and just over the top, um, pissed off and mad, which will, gain eyeballs. Um, but then there's no kind of like turning that energy into productive means. So by all means, if you are, an influencer, then you can help out by joining DreamCloud and obviously sharing it on your own videos. Um, but there are people who are kind of willing to do more of the work, and like I don't like to always, kind of like be um, on here, making videos. I'd rather be like building things and working on things and um, you know, creating meaningful content. But meaningful content and like viral content are kind of different. Those are different animals. And so if you can create viral content, then create viral content and do that as part of the community. If you create more meaningful content, if you like to write about things, or if you like to think about how things are structured or systems that could be improved, then, create more content on the platform. And then, other people will create more viral content leading back to that. But there's a way for you to be supported. There's a way for you to be tipped by other people on the platform. You can be subscribed to by people on the platform. Your campaigns can be subscribed to, contributed to, pledged to. Your projects can be contributed to or pledged to. And you can have people vote on your petition. So whatever it is that you're talking about in, that campaign, then you just have, people sign your petition to get signatures. So right now, the first campaign that we're launching on DreamCloud, dreamcloudclub.org, is a modern federal election reform campaign. This is something that is structured outside of the political system. This is not being led by a political party. This is not being led by a politician. And the reason I want to do this outside of the system is so that it can stay permanent, right? I want to see how many Americans are out there that want to support this idea. And it has to do with three things. One is creating publicly funded elections. Two is enacting term limits on members of Congress or any elected officials at the federal government. And three is banning stock trades. So are those ideas like universally liked? Are those nonpartisan issues? Are those, things that we can all come together and agree on? I think so. And if it's at the federal level, then it's something that everyone can support, right? If we wanted to start small and create a small idea in our own city or our own state, then basically everyone else would be left out. So if we create a big idea and it's about federal election reform, and we organize around it and we sign the petition and we donate even a small bit to this campaign, and we're able to build a team and hire people and then launch a real media strategy and pay for ads and create media to be run on television or to be placed, on billboards in major cities, or just to spend more money on social media ads. And we're able to hire people who are in media to, design these things really well. Um, and then we're able to, you know, um, interview or reach out to elected officials to say, will you support the MFR? Will you support the modern federal elections reform campaign? And we can get a clear yes or no on that. And will you come and join DreamCloud? Will you create a profile? Will you endorse these policies that we want to see enacted? Will you join a group of people who are adamant about, improving this country in a real way? And, that can be a clear indication of where someone is. And then when it comes time to vote, we can have our candidates that are interested in a new vision for the country. And we can see, which candidates are a part of the status quo and want to be a part of the business as usual crowd. Because that's kind of where we are right now. We are in a situation where we have, a very powerful status quo. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to stand here and say that this isn't a very intimidating system. It's very well funded. It's very well connected. These people are very good at what they do. Unfortunately, I just don't think their heart is in the right place. I don't think that they care about humanity at large. And, maybe because the system itself doesn't allow it for each individual. But at some point, we have to stop and say, this is unsustainable. We have to create a system that works for more people. And we can't just let individual politicians lead that. That needs to be led by the people. So what I'm saying to you, when I'm coming to you saying, let's lead, let's together, let's build a coalition, let's build a community of people who are able to imagine the future, who are able to dream about what we want. We're able to post about, what it is we envision, right? We're allowed to create projects that we want to see funded. We're going to fund each other. We're going to launch campaigns. We're going to get signatures. We're going to organize around these ideas. And then we're going to come up with a list of demands about what we want. And we're going to use some people as leverage who are in like large industries in the labor market. We can use other people who are political activists or who are running for campaigns. We can, use other people who are in the media to share our ideas and to link people back to this site, right? We have all of these people already out here on social media who are just doing their own thing, right? And, you're a part of your own social media channel, which is fine, but you're not part of a larger organization. So how do we create a larger organization who are, bringing people together across different sectors? So you may be good at organizing labor, and you may be good at creating content, and you might be good at, building businesses, or you might be good at investing, right? So all of these people now have a platform to come together and to start building together, because that's what we don't have right now. And like that in and of itself should be, I think, kind of like what the government itself is doing. But we live in such a privatized system that unfortunately, the government is not bringing people together and uniting us under one vision for the country to benefit all people. It is a system that is basically, it's been stripped of its individual sovereignty. It's been stripped into parts. It's been sold off. It's been privatized. And each of these individual functions, instead of delivering quality services to the public, it's extracting the most value while offering the bare minimum service. And that's where we are right now. That's what this country has become. And everyone can feel it. Everyone understands that that's what's going on. But we have to reverse engineer this. We have to figure out how we're going to fix it. And we have to start communicating. We have to start sharing our ideas. We have to start posting on a permanent platform that is going to last longer than a day. So, we can share things on social media. I will continue to share, obviously, on social media. I'm streaming here. But when it comes to, creating an individual policy, I can't explain to you in this video why, a private healthcare system is wasteful and why it's not a good idea to have a private healthcare system over a public single payer system. It's just not appropriate for me to sit here and explain it to you. I can give you bullet points. The administrative fees, the billing departments, the fact that you have multiple insurance companies that are doing all this work. So you not only have one billing department, but you have 10 billing departments. And then you have, each state has its own regulations. Like there's so much overlap and so much waste in the current system. Plus, you're getting lower quality care at a higher cost, right? If you look comparatively to other economies and other countries, you have higher quality care and you have lower costs associated with each expenditure from patients. So, right there, like those are the reasons we shouldn't do this anymore. Okay, so how are we going to fix the system? Well, we have to enact a single payer system, a universal healthcare system. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, we have to get our politicians to enact it, to write it into law. Okay, but they are paid off by the insurance companies and the hospitals and the pharmaceutical manufacturers. So what are we going to do? Okay, that's why DreamCloud exists, because when we get to the root of the issue, it's about we can't hold this political system accountable anymore, right? We're unable to form a single political party that is not only able to create change, but it's able to sustain that change for a long enough period of time without getting, let's just say, corrupted. So we don't have to. I mean, I would love to create a new political party, right? I've been looking at different kinds of options for this and reaching out to people. And there's, other people who are interested in more just like forming a new political party. But we shouldn't form a political party that has like a static, these are our rules and, these are our policies. We should have a think tank. We should have a network of people who are independently working together on what they know, because I don't know enough about education to really create education policy. I don't know enough about, that system, right? I can say that we need to make it cheaper. I know that. But there's other people who work in education, who can specialize in that field, who can come onto DreamCloud and who can start writing about how do we fix this student debt problem. Right now, the student debt problem is out of control. It's trillions of dollars worth of debt right now that we're strapping young people with before they even have their first job in the real economy. So obviously that's part of this. We need to fix that. The housing situation, the education system, the healthcare system, the financial system, or the energy system, it's just too much. It's becoming unbearable. But it's the same fundamental issue, which is the people don't have power. We cannot hold our elected officials accountable. We do not have a system to do this. And we've been trying to do it through political parties, but those political parties have said to us, we would rather take money from these massive contributors, from these PACs, from these, corporate establishment entities, and we'll come to you when we want your votes and when we want your approval and we want to act like we're, for the people. We'll come to you for that. But really, what we're doing is we're grifting off of your inability to change anything. So what we have to do is, as a people, nonpartisan, without fighting with each other, without becoming divided by stupid, issues that don't really matter. We need to focus on economic policies that do matter. We need to focus on what we want, what kinds of systems we actually want to see in society. And then we need to discuss those, and we need to put those on a platform where everyone can see them laid out, or I can sit there and read page after page after page about, the new healthcare system that we're going to enact. And then I can find another article that is about how we're going to pay for it. And then I can read another article about how we're going to make the transition. And then I can read another article about, how we need to reform the education system to make this possible, right? There's so much, there's so much material that we have to produce for these things to be possible. And the system is powerful because it relies on your ignorance. And you should realize that we're fighting an uphill battle here. I'm fighting an uphill battle because I if I want to change this, if we want to change the system, we have to promote your education. We have to make you understand more about the system. And, if the system wants to become more corrupt or continue, it actually just has to make you more ignorant or hide things from you and distract you with other interests. And that becomes the problem where, it's harder to make people think and make people wake up and make people understand that we can change the system and we can do things differently. It's easier just to give them the bread and circuses and distract them and continue to take advantage of them. And that's what's happening. So what I want to do is create a space where it seems easy to be educated on issues, where you can log in or you can just visit the site and you can read about why this system would be better, or what kinds of systems we should create in the future, what kinds of projects we should build, what kinds of campaigns we should build, how it would be more beneficial for everyone if we had term limits. Like, why is that? And you can just read about it and you can see it's there. And then that's linked to a campaign, and we're putting pressure on people. And there's some people who are sharing information, and there's some people who are doing more of the activist work, but we're all working together. And then, cooperations and cooperatives, that's become a big topic recently. We need to find a way to fund these. So my concept with DreamCloud is that each individual person creates a campaign or a project, or they can get funded just like, Patreon or Substack or, Twitter support subscriptions. Each individual person is transacting money. And then the platform just takes a small commission off of each of those and builds a community wealth fund. And then we can come together as a collective and say, what do we want to build? We should be building a nonprofit healthcare system that, is across the country. We can do that. We need to build a, nonprofit food system, right? We can build businesses that are being run for the interests of the public rather than the private investors that started them or that bought them, private equity groups that captured them. But we can't do that if we're not funded. We can't do that if we don't have a lot of people supporting it. So how do we get a lot of people to support those types of projects? We need to get them on the platform. If we have a lot of people on DreamCloud just going to read articles and going to share their own ideas and going to learn from other people and launching campaigns and launching projects, if we have a lot of traffic, then all of a sudden, larger companies want to advertise there. So if we can have advertising on this platform, then we can generate more money. We can take that money and we can put it into other projects. So at the end of the day, we need a platform. Like we need a platform for the people who are trying to envision a better future for everyone. And I believe that those people exist, but we're too few and far between. And we have individual ideas. It's too hard for any individual person or organization to come up with all of the strategies. It just doesn't even make sense. So that's the inevitability of that I've reached with DreamCloud, is that it has to be open source. It has to be centralized, which is, one platform where everyone can come together, but it also has to be open source or decentralized where anyone can join and anyone can contribute. And then all of that information, all of those campaigns and all those projects and all those profiles are in one place so we can find each other online. So that's basically what I've built. That's the new website. Just launched it. I'm basically the author of most of the posts on there. And then another technology that I built is called Cloud Square. And this is more of like a local social networking app where we can kind of, come together around events in the real world, right? And that's something I built at first, thinking that, we could use that as a crowdfunding mechanism to then build the projects, but then the content is not there. So I went back and I redesigned this whole website, DreamCloud, into a open source kind of a crowdfunding think tank, so that we can start to brainstorm these ideas. We can start to post about what we want. We can start to envision the future together. We can start planning these things out. And then once we have good strategies to implement, then we can execute on them. And once we have a lot of people who are on the platform, who are coming to see what's going on, who are contributing, who are coming as an audience or as a creator, once we have a good ecosystem, then we can leverage that into advertising money to then fund projects that we're building together. So ultimately, that's the vision for this platform, is just to say that we have, we have people who are interested in building projects and launching campaigns and sharing ideas. And, the people are motivated for change, but we don't have a platform for that yet. So that's why I built it. It's out there. Anyone can join. Anyone can post about their individual projects. You don't need any permission from anyone. You can share what you're working on. And this is going to be kind of phase one, is let's put this information online. Let's start bringing people in who are frustrated, who just want to talk about, let's say a particular part of the economy or the political system that is corrupt, and you want to share more information about that. You can post that there. If you have an idea about a system that would be better, you can post about it there. You can share that. If you have a campaign and you want to collect signatures and you want to collect donations and you want to start something that's a little bit more, temporary, right? Then you can do that. If you want to launch a project where you're establishing a company, a business, some kind of a new venture, and you want to hire people, you can do that. So you can use it however you want, right? All you have to do is integrate your payouts into a Stripe Connect account, and then you'll get paid right away. You get funded right away. The platform takes a commission, but you don't have to wait for any payouts. So, basically, I don't see any organization, any individual organization that's going to be able to solve this problem. And we need something big. We need a big change. We need something that incorporates everyone. We need a space so everyone has their ability to input what it is that they're an expert at. And there's a lot of people who are talented. They have a lot to say. They have good ideas. They have, understandable complaints about what's wrong. And now you have a space for yourself to share long form, detailed explanations about what is wrong or what we should do about it, or how we should do things differently, or just share information about, something you wish was in the world, right? It could be just an idea about like, I wish we had this type of product in the world, right? And then you could maybe say, let's launch a campaign around this type of product. So you go from thinking about like, oh man, I wish we had this in the world. Then you create a campaign around that idea and you ask for petition signatures, and then other people can go on the platform and sign the petition to make that possible. And then all of a sudden we know that there's a demand for this type of thing. And then someone can say, okay, let's launch a project around that. And then we crowdfund it. And then everyone throws in a few dollars, but there's millions of us. So all of a sudden now we have a company and we have an idea and we have something that's been tested. And then we can build a product and then offer that product back to the market. And then, we can do it again. So, this is like building a new economy. It's going to take time. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be like, I have to explain this over and over and over again, but this is something that I think that we are, finally over the target with, that, media is the most powerful thing in society. Media is in some ways more powerful than politics, or at least individual politicians. So, DreamCloud is a new media company. It's truly, truly new media. Because it doesn't give a hierarchy to followers, right? Like if you're on social media right now, my biggest complaint is that, I'll see bot accounts, or I'll see big accounts that are like, corrupted. Like the algorithm is pushing specific content. You can almost feel that now. And that's not fair to people who have great ideas, but have smaller accounts. And it's also like social media is just for anything. So you have like tragic accidents, and you have like dance videos, and you have like people like freaking out about, the world, all happening at the same time. And it's like, what are we doing? This is madness. I can't have twerking videos next to like catastrophic, war videos next to like, corrupt, it's just like, it's just too much, right? So we need a place where the tone itself is, what do we want to do? How do we want to change the world? What do we want to see built? What kinds of positive changes do we want to see together? And it could be on a local level. You could be talking about your neighborhood. You could be talking about your city or your state, or you could be talking about the country. You could be talking about the whole world. It doesn't really matter. You could be talking about education, technology, healthcare, the economy, the community, government policies. You could be, basically like coming from any point of life, from any walk of life. You can now contribute your expertise and or your interest in a subject, and just say, I wish I knew more about this. Now I'm going to dive in, because honestly, I didn't really know how complicated election reform was until I started diving into it. And I didn't really know how complex this whole single payer system was until I started diving into it, until I forced myself to sit down and write an article about the transition from private health insurance to public health insurance and single payer in California. It's really complicated. It is not as easy as, we want it, let's just have it, and people who say no are instantly corrupt. It's actually very complicated, and it would be easier if we did it on a national scale first, as weird as that sounds. But we can do that. We just have to have the explanation. We have to have the right people coming together to think about it. And we have to have a plan. We have to have financing. We have to have funding. We have to have a community. We have to have people's involvement. We have to be able to hold politicians accountable. We have to have a platform to do all this. And of course, we can come on social media and we can share our individual ideas, and we can freak out, and we can express ourselves like we always are going to. But DreamCloud is kind of more of a serious space where we're actually thinking about these things. We're planning things. We're writing them down. We're taking the time to research them. We're sharing images or graphics, infographics. We can link to other external articles or other studies that we've researched. We can link to each other's pages. So if someone has a campaign that you like and you want to write about it, you can throw that campaign right in your post as like a link in the whole article. And because it's a platform that we can now control, We don't have to worry about censorship or getting lost or getting pushed down in the algorithm. Everything comes right to the top. Things that are trending trend. Things that are new are new. Things that are popular are popular. There's no kind of like hidden agenda there. And then we control the funding mechanism. So if you want to get tipped, you can get tipped as a creator. If people want to subscribe to you every month, they can basically subscribe to you. You'll get that every month. If people want to donate to your project or your campaign, they can pledge, which basically just means like you're gathering interest for this. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but like the whole Spirit Airlines thing, that was just a pledge. He was just trying to see like what would you give if we were going to buy an airline. So now you can set your campaign or your project to pledge only, so you're not taking money, and then you can have people just sign up and pledge. You can come up with like a new concept and just say like, I wish we had this, and then how much would you pledge? And if people are willing to support it, then it gives you an idea that like maybe you should pursue this and turn this into a product or a company, right? And then if it's something more like, I think we should create this policy, or I think we should stop this thing from happening, then you can put it on as a campaign, and then you can gather signatures and actually get people's real support. And people can only sign it once, so it's a real petition. I don't think legally right now you're able to actually like run your campaign, but if we get enough political figures that want to join the platform, then I can create a system where they sign up as a politician, and then we can have like a donate to my actual campaign form right on their profile, which will actually make it legal, because you have to collect your first name, last name, and I think your address for someone to donate to your actual campaign. And then if you want to get on the ballot, you have to collect signatures in person. So that's not even a possibility on the platform. But essentially what I'm saying is we have to get organized. We cannot continue to let this system fall apart. And I refuse to give up. I will be here trying to organize people, trying to share what I know. So not only did I build the platform, but I'm filling it with content. I'm actively contributing to, the campaigns and the projects and the post material. And I will be coming on here to promote it on social media. Hopefully we get more people who can understand what's going on and understand the vision of DreamCloud. Go to the about page. That should basically clear it up. If you want to, there's a Web3 token. It's on Solana. It's called Dreamcoin, and those creator fees go to the project. But yeah, I'm going to be basically, because, where it's mostly a media channel that is going to be launching campaigns that people can support, or launching projects that we can share with people. I'll be, promoting more campaigns, and, we can be basically, on social media more. I'm less building things these days, but I think it's important that we use technology to empower people. And I think I've built that. I think that this project has the potential to create a larger impact on society. And it's not just about enriching yourself, right? Like it's about how do you create community wealth, or how do we create a system that we can honestly pass down to future generations, right? Like how many times do you have the opportunity to say, I'm a part of something that I'm going to pass on to my children, and that I know can be strong enough to stabilize, the economy for more people. And it's not about just taking money from yourself and giving it to other people, but it's about creating true stability for generations to come. I think that, if we think about the world we want to see in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, but we want to see it now, obviously, right? Like, what is that system? And how can all people be a part of it? And how can all people contribute to it? And how can everyone benefit from it? And how do we How do we fund businesses differently? How do we launch campaigns differently? How do we share information differently? And what you're going to find is if you go to DreamCloud, I'm starting to answer that issue. I'm starting to answer that problem, which is, well, we need to have this kind of like all-encompassing platform that reads like a news website that's really professional, but on your phone it obviously looks more like a social media site. But it's not as, let's say, quick or shallow as social media. It's not just like a small snippet. You can't just leave a snarky comment. Like, it requires you to take some time to think about what you're going to write about. You have to create a title, you have to create an image, you have to create a subtitle, a summary, and then you have to fill it with content. But with that, you can create links to videos if you want to share someone else's video or share your own YouTube videos. You can create links to exterior articles if you want to cite them. You obviously can fill it with text. And then if you're writing about other things that are already on the platform, you can embed kind of like a page link so that within your article, within your post, other people are going to see what it is you want to share. So this is a way we can all come together and we can create something together. We can work on one project that everyone can share in, and we can all be specialized. We can all kind of focus on what it is we want to focus on as individuals, whether we're sharing news media, whether we're, sharing research, whether we're an investor looking for new projects to fund, whether we are entrepreneurs looking to launch a new business, whether we're, politicians looking to, get elected to office, whether we're activists looking for something to join or some kind of a campaign to launch, right? Like, if you are any of these people, you can come and create an account on DreamCloud at dreamcloudclub.org, and you can start to contribute. Like, now we have a system that we can say is ours, that is people led, that is owned and controlled by the community, by the people. It won't be taken away from us. You won't get censored. You won't be, pushed into the shadows, and kind of stampeded on by like shallow content. I just don't think that this platform is going to be conducive of shallow content. But at the same time, we have to feel like what we're doing matters and what we're contributing towards is actually, energy well spent. I don't want to spend more time arguing and fighting and complaining about the system while it continues to do what it does on us. And it continues to do what it does on younger people who don't even have a fighting chance, who don't even understand. Like, you get to my level of like, 30s, and I understand, probably half as much as I'm going to understand in the future. And I probably understood half as much as I do now in my 20s. And, it's just like the system is set up in a way to prey on your ignorance so that, you kind of are entrapped in it for life. So we need a system that will wake people up before it's too late. We need a system that allows us to come together and to educate in a meaningful way, right? Because yes, you have education that's about like specific subjects. Like, you have, training people to be an electrician or training people to be a nurse, right? Like, that's education. But education about how the world works is just as important. Education about, the importance of election finance reforms is just as important. Educating people on, how the financial system has become, unresponsive to the needs of the real economy is important. Educating people about, different kinds of periods of, bankruptcies and stock market crashes and what led to those bubbles and how we're in another bubble now. That's important, right? So yes, we're each individually doing that in our own way. And those are kind of scattered on, YouTube, or they're scattered on these other websites. But if it's about, educating people and building a world that we want to live in. I say like we should build the dream world. We should be building a dream world together. Like there's enough of us that are, kind of awake right now that can understand the problems in the system. There are enough of us that want to change the system. There are enough of us that are frustrated by it. It's not working for. Even if you are well off, even if you are, even if you do have a good job or you have some wealth, you can see that, the system is not going to be sustainable for maybe your kids or maybe future generations. Or you can just be upset by how egregiously corrupt the people who are in, positions of power are now. Or you can just look on social media and see that there's, horrific things happening in other parts of the world to other people. It's just not, even if you like that affects you, even if you are wealthy, you can look at the world today and say, this isn't right. What's happening today is not right. And I don't want to be a part of that. And I want to do something about it. And I don't want to just check out. I want to be, a good influence on the world. But if I just do that on my own in my own individual way, it's not going to build it towards anything. It's not going to amount towards anything. But if I was a part of an organization that was doing that together, that anyone could join, that was, that touched many different sectors of the economy, that could educate people, that could allow people to launch campaigns, that could allow people to build projects, that could allow people to share information, that could allow people to, collaborate with each other and build new companies. We could build new companies. We could launch new projects. We could launch campaigns. We could fund new political parties. We could, get better candidates in office. We could wake people up. We could share information. We can do all these things, but it's one central location where anyone can come back to. I mean, I really want to build this as a site that I enjoy going to, right? Like I want to learn from you guys. I want you out there to sign up to create content so that I can read your ideas. Because I come on social media and I've talked to a lot of people in DMs, in messages, and it sounds like they have good ideas. And it sounds like, they're in your inbox trying to express an idea to you. And it's like, that's not the forum. The forum is not in the DMs. The forum is not in, like I'm emailing investors, trying to get investors to give me money over an email. Like it just doesn't seem right. So how do we create a platform where if I have a project, I can put that project on some kind of a platform and I can say, I'm looking for funding, right? Either through pledge or through contributions. Like I'm building this thing, I'm building this company, this product. I'm looking for people to help me build it. I'm looking for people to, invest time. And it just doesn't seem like there's a real solution to that is, a part of making the world a better place, right? And each individual website has its strengths, but if we could create something that's kind of more all-encompassing with like a singular purpose. So instead of it being like any purpose, but it's only one thing, right? Like you can raise funds, but you can raise funds for any purpose. That is different than you can write articles, you can share things, you can educate people, you can raise funds, you can launch a campaign, you can build a company, you can build a political, campaign. But your focus should be about how do we build the dream world and how do we make this world a better place? So then it kind of it removes the noise, and you can always come back to these platforms to like watch silly content or, waste a few hours before bed. I do it. I like to go on social media just to kind of like let my mind rest and kind of, let my thoughts kind of escape me before, but at the same time, it just doesn't feel like we're building towards anything, right? And it just doesn't seem like these independent political candidates that we need to support have a community that they can be supported by. Like there's a few of them, And I can only name like a handful of politicians right now that I would actually respect and vote for and feel confident that, like, yes, they want to do the right thing. We need hundreds, we need thousands of politicians like this. We need them on the local level, we need them on the state level, we need them in federal elections. And we need a place for us to support them. We need a place for us to stick up for them. And they can't just be thrown to the wolves in these traditional media channels, right? Like you have some of these politicians, right? Like they have their own campaign website, and then they have social media. And if you actually look and if you actually read the comments, like people do support these good politicians now. They show up to their rallies. They do leave good comments. And then you'll see like traditional corporate media will try to throw some of these political candidates under the bus. And then you'll see people come out and support them in the comments and say, you know, nice try, nice try, CNN, or something like that. So, you know, it's good to see that. But it would also be good to see like a central platform where I could just go into, let's say, like the health category, and I could just see a bunch of posts that are written about health, you know, from different kinds of politicians, or, you know, see a bunch of different government policies that are being proposed, right? Because a lot of the time when you're just on social media and it's just video clip, short form, that's what they're competing with, that's what they have to do, you don't get the full story, right? And yeah, I guess you could go to their platform and you could read, you know, a politician's entire platform from beginning to end. But, you know, it's like, where are you going to find all the politicians? So basically that's what DreamCloud is. I think that, you know, if we want to change the world, if we really want to see better things happen in the world, we're going to have to come together, and we're going to have to work on the solutions together. We're going to have to give our input. We're going to have to, you know, really want to put in the work. And I can't do all the work, right? No one person, no one organization can do all the work. But now that we have a platform, we can do the work together, and we can support each other, and we can feel like, okay, you know, I'm going to, you know, write an article about, you know, this person's campaign, and I'm going to share with the community why I think this is a good idea. And the more we do that, the more we can create, you know, a system that does work for more people. And the more we do that, the more we can hold our political leaders accountable. And we can start to organize around concepts and ideas that, you know, we want to see in the world. And it just makes it easier for each individual person to just bring your idea, right? Like, you don't have to have permission anymore. You can go on the site, you can bring your idea, you can bring your concept, you can bring your project, you can post about it, you can share it with everybody. You know, you can ask for funding, you can do whatever you want now. You don't have to like get other people necessarily like to approve of anything. You can just put it on the platform. And then when people are looking for, you know, interesting, innovative ideas to support, they can go to DreamCloud and they can go, you know, what kind of projects are being proposed right now? Okay, I'm going to give that person $3. I'm going to give that person $4. You know what I mean? And if millions of people were to do this every month, right? Just to find one project you want to support a month and just give them a few dollars, then all of a sudden these people with these dreams are funded, because a lot of these, you know, private investment institutions that I've been talking to trying to start my company are not interested in good ideas. They're interested in ideas that will extract value from people who are their customers to pay, you know, investors, to pay, private equity funds to be able to grow the company fast enough to get other investors excited, to then eventually IPO, to exit, to sell those shares to the public at a higher valuation, to then make money. And then they really don't care like what happens to this project. Like the whole system, once you really dive in and unpack it, is completely insane. And the only reason that it continues to operate the way that it does is because the people truly have no power. You truly have no power over, who gets funded and who doesn't. The people right now don't have any power over the bank that they are, banking with, right? Chase, Bank of America. You have no say over like what that bank invests in or what it doesn't invest in. And that's your money. And even it's your money, you have no idea. You have no say in what it invests in. Think about BlackRock or think about one of these other big investment institutions that you don't even have your money in. You have no say in what gets funded and what doesn't get funded. So building a platform where anybody can kind of like, express their idea, bring their project, share with the community. This is what I want to do. This is what I think we should build. This is the kind of product or service that I think should be offered to the public. And if the people decide like, yes, let's support that, then the people can support it. And we can get away from this whole needing to, talk to investors. And like, I've always felt like that's a terrible thing to do, is like to beg rich people who don't need more money to like own part of your company. That this is something we should get rid of completely. Or we should make it completely unnecessary. We should create systems where people can just feel like they're able to get funded for their individual products or whatever they're launching from the community because other people want to see that product or they want to support that idea. And then there's the added pressures of, well, if you are getting funded by extremely wealthy people and they're contributing large sums of money, then you have an immense amount of pressure to make that project work. And if it doesn't work, then it's a huge, it's a huge strain. There's a huge risk. So if there is a huge risk for these people, then they're not going to invest in the kinds of projects that are risky, right? So this also solves another issue, which is, some of these ideas, they need to be risky. Like we need to be taking risks right now. That's another reason that so much of the real economy is struggling, is because opening a real business is really risky, right? If I just wanted to if I was like a portfolio manager and I wanted to make money, I would just speculate on the prices of commodities. I would just speculate on the prices of assets that are already established companies. I would just go trade in the market. And that's where all of our money is. That's why nothing is getting built and we don't see real development in the real economy, because the most, I don't want to say powerful, but the wealthiest investment institutions are just happy just trading money around with each other and just buying this and selling that and, puts and options, calls, and just basically, and now we have, what are they called? These speculative apps, Polymarket. We have these other kinds of, trading firms or apps that just allow you to like speculate on what's going on. It's like, why are we wasting money? Why are we investing money trying to speculate on like what's going to happen next week? Like this just doesn't seem to be a good use of our money. So what we need to do is to shift towards a money and investments and, contributions or any kind of, investment. It needs to go into something that's real, that's, going to grow the economy, that's going to be beneficial, that's going to create a new job. And that's the other reality that we're facing, is that, technology, innovation, efficiency, artificial intelligence, that's going to continuously lead to less and less jobs. So we need to find a way for people to be able to be funded to start their own companies so that they're not laid off from the companies that they own. And, you know, I don't know what that looks like, right? Like we need to talk about UBI. We need to have a system that allows us to talk about UBI in a real way. And it can't just be, again, it can't just be a singular politician talking about it on their policy platform website, right? Actually, that'll be the next thing I start to talk about is how a UBI is actually funded. Like it would be worth everyone's time to understand and to figure out how we actually pay for a UBI. How does it work? Who gets it? How is it distributed? Where does it come from? What other benefits do people lose because they're all of a sudden getting a UBI? Do we need to move towards a nationalized oil industry? Do we need to move towards more nationalized energy sector? Obviously, we need to decrease spending in other areas. How do we shift money around to pay for these things, right? Like those are long conversations. Those are in-depth articles. Those are not things that you can just come on social media and understand by watching, a 30-second TikTok, or, even like a good YouTube video is not going to be able to cover everything. And an individual creator is not going to be able to cover everything. So we need a platform where multiple people can come together and contribute their individual knowledge about if we were going to create a UBI, how would we do it? Where would like each individual person can take that project, how we're going to create a UBI, and they can say, listen, I'm going to focus on what other programs need to be cut to pay for it. I'm going to focus on what industries need to be nationalized to pay for it. I'm going to focus on, who gets it. And maybe if you're above a certain income, you stop getting it so that it can be redistributed back to people who actually need it, right? Or I'm going to focus on how we implement it in phases. So it's not just all at one time. I'm going to, look at the impacts of a UBI and how it influences the labor market, right? All of these things, these are all very complex conversations that we need to start having. But if we're not having them in an organized way where you can go to one platform to see them, and then once we've talked enough about this UBI program, then we can start a campaign to actually put it into work. Because right now it's like, we're just like, we're screaming about it. We're just kind of like complaining about the economy. We're just kind of like saying we need to have UBI. And it's like, well, okay, what kind of UBI? Like, how does it actually function? Like, what are all the details? And then, we have all that evidence. Then we can create a campaign around it. We can get the signatures. We can get the petition support for it. We have millions of people supporting this idea. And we can have people who are actually working on it, right? Like the campaign organizers can get contributions, or they can be supported by people in the community to keep working on this, who are going to actually go into and lobby politicians, right? Like, how do we create a crowdfunding, decentralized media campaign, project building network that could be used to lobby current incumbents to make these changes and implement them, right? On behalf of the people. That's what DreamCloud is. So that's what we have now. We've never had that before. This is a brand new piece of technology that is, I think, going to liberate the people. I've been trying to work on this project my entire life, and people think I'm crazy, but liberating the people and creating world peace has been my agenda. That's what I've been trying to work on. And, I thought it was going to be through robots, and I thought it was going to be through starting, different kinds of projects. But I realized that I can't do it alone, and I need people's help. I need people to, come as they are, share with the group their project, to be able to, if they are sharing information, share it. If you're launching a project, launch it. If you want to do a campaign, do that. If you're a politician, come like that. If you're an educator, if you're a healer, if you're an organizer, if you're an activist, if you're, a builder, if you have a piece of technology you're working on, you want to contribute that. It really doesn't matter anymore. DreamCloud is for everyone. Anybody who thinks that the world can be better, that they have a dream that they want to see fulfilled. If you want to manifest something in this world and you want to do it to the betterment of society, that you think it can be something that other people will benefit from, bring it on DreamCloud and let's support you. Let's get other people to join the platform. Let's get a whole network of people working together and to say, okay, what do we want the future to look like? What do we want our healthcare system to look like? What do we want our housing system to look like? We could fund a public development corporation that specifically builds affordable housing around the country. We could do that, but we can't do that alone. No individual company can afford to do that. And the funding mechanisms that allow that possible do not exist. So if we want to create affordable housing for people, if we want to launch this affordable housing corporation or whatever it is, or if we want to take the American Housing Corporation and help them and fund them and make them a bigger enterprise so they can basically lower their costs and expand what they're doing, then we need to talk about that and we need to propose that. But it's not something that each individual person can do. So yeah, basically, the future is ours. We can decide, we can decide what we want to do. We can decide what kind of world we want to live in. But unless we have the technology and we have the platform for it to happen, it's not going to work, right? And, we could have piecemealed it together, I guess. We could have said, okay, here's the, what doesn't work is that if you have like the Patreon and you have the Substack and you have the YouTube and you have the social media and you have the GoFundMe and you have the change.org, it's like all of these scattered different systems. Why don't we just take all of those and we'll put them on one platform, and then the platform itself, because it's taking a commission, can build a common wealth fund, almost like a community wealth fund. And then we'll decide what to distribute that in that, is for everyone, right? Like, obviously I'm a single payer guy. I love single payer healthcare. I want that to work, but I was looking it up. The amount of money that it takes to run a program like that, to launch it, is significant. Just even like a nonprofit, one state healthcare system is an immense amount of money. And no organization can afford to do that. Who can afford to do that is the billionaire class. And that's why they own the health insurance industry, because they are the only people with the amount of money to make that happen. And if you're going to invest that amount of money into a system like that, into a company, you're not going to want to run it as a nonprofit. You're going to want to make a lot of money from it. So that's really the problem with healthcare, is that it's run like a company, and companies are funded by massively wealthy individuals that want a return on their investment. So it's the whole system is the problem. It's not just healthcare. It's that this is how companies are funded. And if we continue down this route, it's just, we're going to have more and more problems for working people, less and less affordability. And, we're just, at some point you got to wake up and say, hey, these kids that are coming into the world today are not going to have a good life if we don't do something. So we need to do something, but we can't do something in a immature way. We have to do something in a mature way that says, we're coming together online first, right? And I'm a big proponent of coming together in the real world. I think that eventually we need to get there, right? The economic forum, we need to plan an event. We need to, show up and be involved in the real world. But unless I see a lot of people on DreamCloud sharing their ideas and proposing solutions and sharing their concepts and bringing in their projects and launching campaigns, then, it's almost like the in-person, the forum doesn't make sense if you don't have the audience built in yet, if you don't have the people following, right? So if you create an account, if you post, if you share ideas, if you launch a project, if you launch a campaign, right? And then if you share with people that I'm building on DreamCloud, I'm a part of a community that wants to see the world better tomorrow than it was today, then you attract more people to see what you're building, and they can contribute to you, or they can browse around and contribute to other websites. Maybe someone is starting like a small business for moms, and we all just want to give her like $5. But all of a sudden, a few thousand people do that, and all of a sudden she's funded to start this like mom diaper company. And it wasn't that difficult. And she didn't have to go around begging at wealthy investors to give her all that startup capital. Right. So that's the point, is that we have strength in numbers. The people are strong. We are strong as a united people. But unless we get organized, and unless we start to understand that we cannot bootstrap our way out of this, we're not going to be able to individually, pull ourselves out of this situation. We need to have a system where more people can contribute and more people can benefit. And I believe we can do that. I wholeheartedly think that this is the system, that this is one version of it. And I will continue to improve it. You can continue to give me feedback. If you want to, propose that I add something to the platform, I will add it. But yeah, some of my kind of, other, let's say, more dramatic ideas and projects might have been a little too ambitious. And unless we have the audience, and unless we have like widespread support for these kinds of projects, I just don't see them getting funded. So that's basically the kind of the transition now into this media company, this fundraising platform, this campaign launching platform for all people to share what they're working on. It allows us to collaborate more in our own way, and it allows me to stop trying to make so many decisions on behalf of people, because I've heard from a lot of people that like they have an idea for a project, but it's just not enough to kind of like share those ideas over messages. Like, you have a platform now. I built you a platform for you to express your ideas, for you to share your ideas with the world about how you think the system should change, or how you think we can build a better world. You can create an account, you can post about it, you can share it, and you can find other people who are doing the same thing now. And you can launch a project, you can launch a campaign, and you can share that with other people. You can share those things on regular social media, on, wherever it is you're doing, right? And then because you're a part of a singular platform where you're trying to build projects, or you're trying to launch campaigns that other people can support, when they come to view your project, they're going to also find other projects that are happening and other campaigns, right? So think about it that way, is that you're driving traffic to DreamCloud. And then if people are on DreamCloud looking at your project, they're going to find other people's projects, right? So that works the opposite way too, where if other people are driving traffic to DreamCloud for their articles or their posts or their campaigns or whatever, then they're more likely to see what you're working on, right? So it's a place where you can go to read and to research and to just find out about, like articles, right? Like you could just be going on there to see like, what are people posting today? And then you could slowly come across a project that you like, that you really want to support, and just donate $5 to them. Or you could be an investor and you could be like, okay, here are a bunch of projects that I think should be implemented. I really like these. I'm just going to throw down on all of them, and I'm going to fund these people. And, it's just that we don't have the infrastructure for building the new world we want to live in. We don't really have that technology yet, right? And if you've ever tried to start a company, or if you ever try to reach out to investors, it's really archaic. You have to look their emails up. You have to send them an email with a pitch deck. And it's really not something you can do in mass, right? Every time I want to talk to an investor, I have to send a new email with a new pitch deck. And now I can have a project. I can post it on DreamCloud. I can have the main image, right? And the description and a category of what the project is. I can have my funding goal, I can have my funding date. I can have like a description, you know, and then I can have images. I can put my slides right in there. I can have links to supporting material. I could have a video, right? You could have your whole funding strategy for your company right on DreamCloud now. You can record a video of yourself explaining the project right there on the post, right? So you have your pitch deck slides as your images, you have text explaining more about the project, and you have a link to a video that's you explaining the whole pitch deck or you explaining the project. And you have a funding goal right there. So now if an investor wants to, you know, look for new projects to fund, they come to DreamCloud, they see, you know, this person has this, you know, new tech app or startup. This person is starting a clothing company. This person is launching a new education, you know, material. You know, whatever it is, your own personal project. I can't tell you what to do. That's got to be up to you. But alongside that is that if you get funded through the platform, you're helping us grow as a community. You're helping the whole platform grow. You're helping contribute to a community wealth fund. And, you know, we can let people know that this fund is going to be used towards community projects, right? Like a public option, nonprofit healthcare system that is just about covering people and making sure that people don't go bankrupt from medical expenses. Or, you know, we need to talk about student loan debt. I don't even know how to tackle that subject, right? That's such a big subject. And it just seems like if we don't start to talk about those things, like, please, if you're out there and you understand more about student loan debt than me, obviously, write a piece on that, post about that, propose a campaign. Maybe we can raise money to cancel student loan debt. Because sometimes, you know, like if you buy debt in bulk from some of these people who haven't been getting paid, right? Like, so we could have like people cancel their student loan debt, stop paying it, right? Then all of those are delinquent debts, right? So we could pool our money together through a campaign to buy that debt, pennies on the dollar, and then wipe it away clean. So there's ways that we can come together to do things. But, you know, unless we have a shared interest into making the system better and to proposing solutions and to be, you know, kind of, you know, creating an organization, like we have strength in numbers. We do not have strength as individuals. If we're just going to remain as individuals in this system, then they're going to continue to dominate us, and they're going to continue to dominate every future generation, right? So this is it. Like we have to, you know, we have to decide that, you know, this generation is it. It stops with us. We have to come together and we have to say that we're not going to put up with this anymore, but also that like we have better ideas, right? That's the other thing that a lot of people don't appreciate is that there's so many people with great ideas out there that just don't have any money. You know what I mean? Like if we just decided that like everybody without money doesn't get to do something, that's a stupid system. And I don't like that. I don't like to live in a world where people who don't have money don't get to do stuff and don't get to follow their dreams. And it's only, you only have the possibility to make what you want happen in the world possible if you already come from money or if you're already wealthy. I just think that that's not a good system, or if you already have the connections. So, you know, that's another opportunity to solve something, is to say you could be a young person with a dream. You could have, you know, just a good idea, a good design philosophy. You could be a good artist, right? This could be, you know, open to artists as well, creatives. You know, I want to create this film. Now you can launch a film on DreamCloud. You can tell people what the film's about. You can share videos of maybe like a trailer you made, or you can show, you know, some kind of like storyboarding for this. You can write the script out. You can link the script in. You can keep that in a Google Doc, but you can link it onto the site. People could read it. You know what I mean? Like you could get people involved in like what it is you're building. And then people could straight up contribute to the project, to the actual making of the film. And no, if I give you $5, I'm not going to expect to be an owner of the film. I'm just helping you make it. I'm helping you follow your dream. And with that, we have, a collective understanding that like when I have a dream and when I have a project that I want to bring to DreamCloud, that I'll get supported by other people. And obviously it's not guaranteed, but like at some point we need to create some kind of an understanding that like everybody deserves at least a few dollars in each campaign. And if there's millions of people doing that, then there's millions of dollars floating around, getting funded. There's people who can actually build companies for themselves, hire more people. DreamCloud is getting funded to the tits, and we can create some of these bigger projects. So that's my perspective. I'm highly ambitious, and I have been a little bit over my skis lately on trying to start projects that are just too big. But what I can do is I can offer you a platform for you to dream, for you to share your ideas, for you to launch a campaign, for you to launch a project, for you to connect with other people online right now who want to build a better world. And if you're online right now, and if you're tired of complaining about the system, you want to continue to complain about the system. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're tired of, let's say, just complaining about the system, then I want you to come to DreamCloud. I want you to create an account. This is a completely new website. So if you have created an account on, let's say, the old DreamCloud, that was a WordPress website, so that's gone. This is completely new. Create an account and bring a project, bring a campaign, bring something that you want to get funded, or write about something that you feel passionate about. You could be just sharing an article about, what it is you do. You could be sharing about the news, right? Like there's a lot going on right now with the war in Iran and with the, oil crisis happening right now, right? If you are a person who understands that clearly and you don't want to feed into the sensationalism and the propaganda around it, and you want to inform people and you want to give them a little deep dive into the history of the global oil trade and our relationship with that region, then write a post, write an article about that. Give us something to read. Give us something to understand so we're more educated. And those types of things help drive the virality of the whole thing. So, I'm not good at being viral. I'm not good at being controversial and aggressive and using my frustration to express hatred towards other people. I'm just never been good at that. And there's other people who can do that way better than me. So, that's basically it. My nightly, I'm going to try to do at least one of these every night so that we can, start to understand what's going on. But for now, go check out the national campaign, right? The modern federal election reform campaign. This is a 3-parter, right? These are things that I think that are nonpartisan. I think that these are things that we can build together, that everyone can benefit from, which is publicly funded elections, term limits, and no trading stocks in Congress. Those things should not be controversial. Those should be things that we all agree should happen. And because it's at the federal level, because it's at the national level, we can get massive support. If it was just a state idea, just about solving something in California, then it would only get a couple million people excited. We have the chance to get 300 million people excited about one thing, one agenda. Let's focus on one thing right now that affects every single person in this country. And that is passing modern federal election reform. There's a campaign. You can support it right now on dreamcloudclub.org. You can check it out. You can read about it. You can sign the petition at least, or make a pledge. And that doesn't need to be a real dollar amount. But, we need to start somewhere. We need to read about it. If the least you want to do is just go to the website and read about it and understand what we're building there, start there. If you want to leave a comment under it, if you want to sign up and create an account and leave a comment on that page, do that. If you want to create an account and actually create a full profile and then, write your own post, your own article about that and share that in your article, then do that. If you want to say, wow, this is my opportunity to launch a campaign that's similar, right? Then do that, right? If you want to just say, hey, there's this crazy kid on TikTok who just launched a whole platform for us to like build a dream world together, do that. It's wherever you can show up for the community, because this is a community platform. This is bigger than me. This is not really about me anymore. And we have to kind of build something together, right? And if you want to, talk more about this, then, you can always message me there. You can always message me here. If you want to somehow collaborate on something, let me know. I've been building this platform I built. Took me, I think, maybe a couple weeks, but it's a GoFundMe, it's a change.org, it's a Patreon, and it's a Substack, all rolled into one. And it's clean and it's categorized, and it allows us to focus. It allows us to contribute to projects we believe in, to contribute to campaigns, to sign petitions, to tip creators, to subscribe to creators, to pledge money towards projects. Like whatever you want to do, or however you want me to improve the platform, I'll tweak it. I can change things. If you just want to highlight, like I can think of people who are doing philanthropic work, obviously sending aid to parts of the world that need it. I'm going to start to maybe focus a little more time on sharing their stories and highlighting the good work that people are doing, to encourage them to build a campaign, so they can raise funds on the platform. But yeah, basically I think that we need a digital space for us all to come together to say, I want to live in a better world. I want to improve the system. I want to be a part of a positive change. And what I can contribute is this, right? And before, what I was trying to do was too specific. It was like, let's do this thing and then we can do that thing and then we can do the next thing, without any community support, without any financial support. And it just doesn't make sense unless the community is there supporting each other, right? Like it's not about what I'm doing. It's about what other people want to do on the platform. And then we can all come together to support them. So bring your project, bring your campaign, bring your ideas, bring your best self. Don't bring your hateful self that is, too frustrated to even think. Slow down, take a breath, think about what you want to post, think about the thing that you care most about in this world and you want to improve it, right? Everyone feels like there could be something that is better, that functions better in this world. Okay. Now start to write a post about it. Start to write actually about what that would be. It's going to make you think. It's going to make you question yourself. It's going to make you, slow down and have to do a little bit of research to actually formulate like what that concept really looks like at the end of the day. And that already happened for me. When I was looking at single payer healthcare in California, I thought it was just an issue of being corrupt. But actually, there's a huge transition that we have to make. And then we have to think about, what happens to federal funding, because it's not just as simple as, we create a single payer system and then What happens to everyone who's on their private insurance? What happens to all of the people who are already paying through payroll taxes to the private system? Are they going to be taxed on the public system and the private system? How are companies going to adjust to this? How are individuals going to adjust to this? So you almost need to create a public system first that is like a nonprofit statewide healthcare system that each individual person can switch to. And as each individual person is switching to, then whatever their company or whatever their, individual contributions are, that's what switches over to that system slowly, slowly, slowly. And then at the end of the day, we shift it to the tax basis, and then everyone's covered. So, that's a very complex, long conversation that we have to have. And if we're not able to create the space for those conversations to be had, for those posts to be shared, for that information to be there, if we don't even have that space, and we're not able to kind of concretely, tell people this is what we should do, this is the type of healthcare system we should have, then it's very easy for politicians to say, well, it just won't work, or we just can't afford that, or that's not gonna fly, because we don't have everything organized and we don't have our system figured out for us to say, yes, look at DreamCloud, go read this article, go read this campaign, go read this project, this is what we want. And then we can hold politicians on both sides accountable. Then it's not just, because sometimes the problem is you have these ideas that are good, but you have these ideas that are, partisan, and then they're held by one political party, and then the other political party can attack those ideas because they're attacking just the other team, right? It's like a sport, and you can find ways of hating everything about the other team. But if it's a nonpartisan issue, if it's just a policy, if it's in the commons, right? We have single payer or universal healthcare as a common ideology that we all share, that we all support. Millions of us have signed the petition. It's not a political issue anymore. It's a policy issue. Then we can tell both of these political parties, hey, this isn't a socialist idea. This isn't a democratic idea. This isn't a partisan idea. This is something that the population supports. This is a populist idea. This is just good policy. So yes, you can attack your political opponent, but you can't attack this idea because it's actually held by the majority of the population. It's a populist thing. It's just a better policy. It's something we all want to see. So that's where we need to get to. We need to be able to create these types of campaigns and policies outside of the political system. So if you're someone who thinks, yes, I want to join a group of people, I want to join an organization of people that is actively planning the future together, that is actively contributing in their own way, and everybody has their own specialty, everyone has their own focus or their own interests, and some people are going to be sharing information to educate people, some people are going to be, writing about why they like this thing, some people are going to be developing complex systems, some people are going to be activists and doing campaigns, and some people will be politicians weighing in on things, or giving their perspective. Some people could be giving historical context or research. Like, it doesn't matter, but just come as you are and help build this community, right? And then reach out to me and tell me how you want to get involved, either by messaging me on this platform or by contacting me on that platform. Once you sign up, you can message anybody, and let's get started. Let's continue to build here, and let's continue to, share with people our ideas. Go check out the Modern Federal Election Reform Campaign, the MFR. It's a big MFR. But I think it's something that we could get the public around. The public could be excited about real campaign reform, about publicly funded elections being the start of getting money out of politics, about term limits being the start of getting these incumbents who have been in office for 40 plus years, who are almost 60 years old, the average age, and 95+% of incumbents get reelected. Like, if we had term limits, we solve all of those issues, right? If we had no trading stocks in Congress, if we had that as a policy that we created as people and we forced that on our elected officials, right? Then we would have people who are not interested in enriching themselves. We wouldn't have them in Congress. So I think we could solve more problems by just getting money out of politics, right? How do we get money out of politics? Well, we fix campaign finance, we make it so no one can be in politics for too long, and we don't allow them to trade stocks, right? Those are three things we could do. But how do we do those things? And if we just rely on these political parties to keep lying to us about doing those things or not doing those things, then we're lost. So that's what DreamCloud is about. That's why you should join. That's why you should sign up. That's why you should create an account and, start creating content there. Start bringing your audience there, so that when more people bring their audience there, then we have a huge audience and we're a powerful organization and we can do powerful things together. But unless we can see the amount of power we can have together as if we collaborate on these ideas, then we won't be able to, move forward as a people. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up for the night. I think that was a good investment of my time. I just launched the platform. I just created, the first dozen posts or pages. I need to kind of step back a little bit and reflect on where I want the next couple of posts to focus on. I think maybe highlighting other people's projects would be good. But yeah, I'm going to continue to do these nightly, a little nightly fireside chat with you, because I do believe that we can change the world together, but we're going to have a mechanism to be able to do that. We need a platform to do that. I built the platform, but it's only going to be powerful if a lot of people are using the platform to fund their projects, their campaigns, and to share information about what it is they want to see in the world and what kinds of systems we should enact. So with that, thank you. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.